Hi guys, what's up? How you all doing? Welcome back to another exciting video. Today I'm talking about Dutch. We're watching something about the Dutch people. It's coming from Lifey. It's titled Funny Things Dutch People Do. I want to know. I'm so eager. I'm curious. I really want to know. Okay, before we dive into that video, please smash the red subscribe button, turn your post notification bell, drop in the comment section what you think about the video, and subscribe if you haven't. Let's quickly see this together. I'm so excited.
Look people in the eye when you're talking to them. Yeah, they like to, stare into your soul, so stare right back. You'll see mothers going to pick up their kids from school or on the way back from the grocery store, and they're on their bike, and they have a kid on the front, and they have, two kids on the back, and then they have the grocery bags on the side, and it's just this overloaded bike. But, they're just pedaling along, doing their thing. Because everyone rides bikes, and because it's so safe to ride bikes, nobody wears helmets. And as a missionary, it's in the rule book that you have to wear helmets. So in a crowd of 1 million people on bikes, you could spot the missionaries in, 2.6 seconds. And everybody makes sure to point and laugh and make fun of you.
Oh,
and
they do that?
Really hurt your feelings.
Oh my
but
gosh.
You grow thick skin from it. Funny sayings. I heard, vrouwen achter de stuur, bloed aan de muur, which means women behind the wheel, blood on the wall. He's talking about lady drivers, no survivors almost, and I thought that was a really funny thing to hear in Dutch. The languages are so similar in certain aspects, so when you hear something in Dutch and you know what the English thing is, you're like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, of course I knew that. And so if you were going to say, what in the world, a Dutch person would say, wat in de wereld.
Oh, really?
So it's like super similar, but hearing it in Dutch, it just kind of sounds a little funny. I think almost the entire western portion of the country has all been reclaimed, and it's, below sea level. The city of Amsterdam specifically, when they did it, they have these huge pillars like under the ground that basically hold the entire city up. Another interesting thing is because it is all reclaimed, the dikes around the country, that keep the water out and stuff, every month they sound the alarms, the dike alarms. And so you wake up and you hear these alarms going off. And so when you're a brand new missionary, you have no idea what that is. The older missionaries would like to take advantage of that situation, and they would freak out like the dikes had broke and now the whole country is going to go underwater, so now we need to get up as high as we can. And when you're eating a meal, everyone gets served, and then you're sitting at the table, and the head of the household is usually the one that gives the okay to eat.
Oh, really?
And he says, eet smakelijk, which is basically the Dutch, bon appetit or whatever. And so once the head of the household says, eet smakelijk, and then picks up his utensils to eat, then everyone else can do that as well. So don't get your food and then immediately start eating, but wait for the head of the household to give you the okay, and then use whatever utensils they are using. So if they're using a fork and a knife, use a fork and a knife. Cool holidays would be King's Day or Koningsdag, and I think that's the last Friday of April or something like that, but it's basically this countrywide garage sale. And so everyone's dressed in orange, and they line up on the streets with all their old stuff, and you can buy stuff for super cheap. So it's fun to dress up and, show your love for the Dutch, or for the Netherlands. The roads, they're all made out of brick, and it's red, and the buildings are all old, and there's these canals, and you're going over bridges and stuff, and I literally felt like I was on a movie set. Like I was in some fairy tale land. Everybody's just driving these little tiny cars or riding their bikes. It just felt a lot more organized, a lot more well kept. The streets are extremely clean. You have the road for the cars, and then immediately to the side there's a huge bike path that has its own roundabouts, it has its own tunnels. It was amazing how many bikes there were. There's more bikes than people over there, and so everywhere you look, there's somebody on a bike going to the grocery store, taking their kids to school, going to work. Everybody's on a bike. Rain, shine, snow, whatever it is, everyone's riding a bike, and that blew me away. Something that I really, really appreciated from the Dutch people was, as a missionary, it was hard for me sometimes, but how direct and how blunt they are.
Yeah.
When you got to know them, they were very, very loving. They were very welcoming. Well, some of my favorite Dutch foods, hands down, would be frites. It's basically, they're just French fries, but they come in these, they call it a puntzak, which is just a point sack. It's kind of like a triangle thing, and they fill it up with fries, and then that either smother it in whatever sauce you want. They have a million different sauces over there, or some of them have it where there's the fries and then there's a little dip thing that hangs over top of it, so you can take your fries out, and it's kind of all in one package. And that is the cheapest meal, the best meal, and probably the meal that I ate the most while I was over there.
How's the cheapest meal the best
During the winter,
meal?
they have stamppot.
That's interesting.
Which is just mashed potatoes with some vegetables in it, like carrots or onions, and then you have a wurst, like a bratwurst almost on the side, and then you cover that in gravy. And then Turkish food, whatever Turkish food they have, just go and eat it. It's super good. It's called doner.
Okay.
Doner kebabs, and those are the best. Crazy Dutch foods. Number one is definitely the hotting, and that's, if you've seen The Best 2 Years, where they're in the city center and they're holding the fish above their head, and you eat it raw.
Fish.
You cover it with onions. It's not so bad. Working with younger missionaries, every time the door opens, it's a shock, and so they always get really tense, and so they get tense, be like, wij zijn zendelingen, wij zijn in de buurt vandaag om een onderzoek te doen. Het is een paar vragen. Hebt u tijd? And I was like that too, and it's just so funny to go back and watch that. And so we knock on the door and say, goeiedag, ik ben Elder Grondels, mijn collega. We zijn er even in de buurt vandaag om een kort onderzoekje uit te voeren. Gewoon een paar vragen. Het eerste vraag, geloof je in God? Denk je dat Jezus Christus de Zoon van God is?
You guys, I feel like this video should be titled Interesting Things the Dutch People Do. Yeah, because the first thing he said was, he mentioned the woman, like, of course everybody rides a bike in the Netherlands and all of those things. He talked about, sometimes he sees probably a woman riding a bike. She has her baby at the back, she has probably a younger one in front, she has a shopping basket. Like, sometimes you see like overloaded bikes, and I feel like that's almost everywhere. Everywhere. Like, you go to villages like in Nigeria, I feel like it's everywhere, to be honest. So I think it should be entitled Interesting Things Dutch People Do. Another thing he meant, and I think something that stood out for me in this video, was the fact that he's a missionary and he speaks the Dutch language so fluently. Well, from the little ones he spoke, he sounded so fluent, and it is so interesting. Another thing that stood out for me is the fact that I thought I was the only one. Sometimes Dutch language can sound somehow like English. I thought I was the only one, because we react to a lot of Dutch videos from the Netherlands about the Dutch people, their culture, their food, and sometimes they speak their language, sometimes it's subtitled in English, so you can hear their language. I thought I actually was the only one until this guy mentioned it, so I'll know that, okay, I wasn't hearing things. He mentioned it, that sometimes the language is a little bit similar, not similar, but it sounds like English sometimes in your ears. That sometimes when they say certain things, you might really decipher that is what they're trying to say. Do you understand? So sometimes it sounds a bit Englishy, if that makes sense. Another thing he said that stood out for me is the fact that, of course, because there are so many people on bikes. I mean, bicycle is like one of their major modes of transportation. You're going to school on bike. You see people going to the shopping malls on bikes. Almost everybody has a bike. In fact, the bikes are more than the people. Okay, so he mentioned that you rarely see people using helmets, because everybody that rides a bike obviously knows, definitely will know the road rules, how to use a bike and all of those things. So they don't really use helmets, which is a safety measure. But he mentioned that because it's in their rule book as a missionary, they have to use helmets. And then when you see people on helmet, they can easily pinpoint that person to be missionary, and then people are laughing at you and then they're in their feelings. That part took me out. It took me out. I think as a missionary or as a tourist person, or you're visiting the Netherlands for the first time, not maybe for the first time, like you're new, I think it's good for you to use a helmet, because you might not be, you might not be used to the roads, and how they use it, and the bikers and the people that the riders and all of those things. So it's important that you use it. Okay, don't mind the laugh and all of that, but I think he said sometimes their feelings. Another interesting thing he mentioned was the King's Day. I think we've reacted to a video like that. I think that's like one of the most beautiful days, where they wear their orange, outfits. Everybody's on orange. They're selling things so cheap, very cheap. He mentioned that, and then he mentioned something that stood out again for me, which he said that fries. He mentioned French fries. Is it French fries he called it fries, and that it's like one of the best meals. He said it was the best meals and it's the cheapest meal. And I asked, I was like, why is the best meal the cheapest meal? Is that how it works? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please drop more tips or more things in the comment section, things that funny or interesting, because I will title this video interesting things Dutch people do. So if you have one or two things that Dutch people do that are interesting or funny and you want us to know, please let us know in the comment section. Do well to drop them in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notification bell, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.